This is Sarnia Lambton Daily for Tuesday, June 9th. Good evening, I'm Terry Doyle. While many areas of the province of Ontario prepare to enter Stage 2 on Friday, Sarnia Lambton is being left in Stage 1. Meanwhile, down the road in Chatham-Kent or over in London Middlesex, they will be able to open up services such as patios and hair salons. The local medical officer of health here says they were not directly consulted about the provincial plans and are asking them to reconsider the decision.
Using CHUs or public health units as regions does create interesting dynamics around the border of those regions. So, for example, if you think about Grand Bend, the southern tip of Grand Bend is part of Lambton County, but the rest of Grand Bend is Huron County, and so if Huron County is allowed to move forward and we are not allowed to move forward in terms of stages, that creates some interesting dynamics in terms of within even the same town or city, some places can open and some can't. And so I think that there will be implementation issues that have to be worked out around that if it is still deemed that we're not in the stage with everyone else, with our neighbors. It is also important to know that this is a provincial decision that was communicated to us, along with I would say an overview or high-level discussion about the potential kinds of ways that they made this decision. So it appears that they looked at case rates and case counts, that they looked at health system capacity, public health system capacity, and so forth. Having said that, though, I think that we're going to be actively asking the province to revisit that decision, because when I look at the numbers and when we look at the numbers over the last 2 weeks, and certainly when you look at other indicators like health system capacity and our public health system capacity, I'm not sure that holding us back is consistent with those indicators that they propose. So we're going to be asking for greater clarification and potentially suggesting to the province that our numbers are such that we might be able to move along with our neighbors into Stage 2 when they do.
Once again, Sarnia Lambton has not seen an increase in the number of COVID-19 positive patients. There have been 270 people test positive overall, with 25 deaths and 229 people considered recovered. 100 test results came back in the past 24 hours. There continues to be one outbreak in the area at Vision Nursing Home. In total, 26 residents and 27 staff have tested positive, with COVID-19 blamed for the deaths of 10 residents. Premier Doug Ford announced today plans to reopen child care centres everywhere in Ontario, no matter what stage they are at.
We need to make sure supports are in place so people can have peace of mind going back to work. That includes our plan for child care. As a father, I know there's nothing more important than the safety of our children. Parents returning to work need to know that someone they trust will be there to care for their child in a safe and healthy environment. So today, we're providing more information on the next phase of our plan to reopen childcare. Starting Friday, June the 12th, all childcare centers in the province will be allowed to reopen with some restrictions. These restrictions will be just like the ones we've seen in the emergency childcare centers open already. There will be limits on the amount of children in the centers at one time. There'll be more screening and more cleaning, and child care centers will be able to reopen once they meet these guidelines. I want parents to know we will take every measure necessary to keep the kids and the staff safe and healthy.
When we come back, you'll hear from 2 cruise ship workers who are back in Canada. They certainly have stories to tell and use the time to create a song they hope will be uplifting and raise funds. That's coming up next on Sarnia Lambton Daily on your TV.
We'll never feel like you're alone. You are never sailing on your own. We are in this together from the day we left our homes. We will stick together, fight through every storm.
Well, that was a sample of You're Not Alone, produced by crew members of the Caribbean Princess cruise ship. They were stranded for nearly 60 days at sea without passengers as the pandemic hit. Two of those crew members join us now. Jennifer Simser joins us, who you saw in the video, along with Daniel Nogueira, who joins us as well. And let's talk about being on a cruise ship when a pandemic hit. And I'll start with you, Jennifer. Take me through when it was. When did you guys realize, something was up in the world, and how did that impact as you were on the boat?
Well, earlier in March, with the COVID-19 thing happening on the Diamond, it was far off news for us at the time. But then around mid-March, March 10th-ish, we had to take some passengers back to Fort Lauderdale early to disembark them because we had a little bit of noro. So we were cleaning our ship, and the day after we knew we were having a cruise with no passengers, we found out that we were ceasing operations because of the COVID. So right away we were told, you might be leaving in 3 days, and you're going to have to pack up everything, clean the costumes, get everything packed up in the theater. And then from that moment, it just got very relaxed. After everything was all packed up and we were told to hurry, we had many days to wait because there were so many obstacles with the CDC changing the rules all the time. So there were so many things that happened. Basically, we had time to write and record a song, but the executive team was putting on events for us to keep the morale high. So it was a nice time because we had no virus on our ship. So we were very lucky. We had no passengers. Yeah, it was a very interesting time.
Obviously, no virus is the big key in terms of the health side. That's first and foremost, no matter what, everything going on right now. Daniel, from your perspective, once again, as you guys are used to, I'm sure, a routine, and then the routine's broken. And when this was first going on, little nervous times and the uncertainty, as everyone dealt with uncertainty, whether you're on a cruise ship, you're on land, you're here in any part of Ontario. What was that like, just that little bit of uncertainty?
Honestly, at first it was great. Essentially there's nothing good about it. We knew that. But when they first told us that we were going to have, because at first it was just the one cruise, like Jennifer said, without passengers. So for us, it was like, we're going to have to work a little bit just to get some things done. But essentially it's going to be a nice little vacation. But even when that became, well, is it going to be another week? Is it going to be 2 months now? We don't know. Again, our executive team was exemplary in keeping up team morale. And I think that's really what made all the difference, because obviously people were keen to go home and to be with their families and whatnot. And our leaders knew that. And as such, they really try to make our stay on board as pleasant as possible. So for me, I'm not particularly panicky when it comes to these situations. I like to think that I keep a fairly level head. So, and again, with the executive team being what it was, I really never felt any particular discomfort. Obviously, the uncertainty was there, but we were kept updated as much as they knew, we knew, essentially. There would be at least one announcement from the captain every day that we could count on, sometimes more, up to 3 or 4 sometimes. So every time he got a new piece of official information, he would give it to us. So it was calming, at least, to know that we knew what they knew. So from that standpoint, I mean, the uncertainty was there, certainly, but there was never any discomfort associated to that, from my perspective.
Daniel, so I assume the ship was resupplied before you went out. Were you just anchored off Fort Lauderdale? How did that sort of play out over that time?
So after a little while, they actually had a no-sail ban on all cruise ships. So essentially what that meant was that we couldn't enter U.S. waters, which was really lucky for us, again, with the whole little bout with norovirus, that we'd already disembarked all of our passengers prior to this announcement from Princess being made, because we just couldn't go back. So those 2 months would have looked very different, if we'd had all those passengers on board that we still had to entertain. But no, we were just off of the coast of the Bahamas, a place called Great Isaac Bay, if I'm not mistaken. And that's where we stayed. Sometimes we were allowed to dock back to get supplies. Other times there was a supply ship that was sailed out to us, and that's how we received all of our supplies and, gas, all that stuff.
Jennifer, I'm sure you guys had to make the best of it. Were there times before you got into doing the song where you could almost be a little bit like guests could be on the cruise ship a little bit, hanging around some of the recreational facilities and just being able to enjoy yourselves a little bit?
Yeah, right after the cease of operations announcement came out, what the company did, which was incredible, across the fleet, they gave everyone a passenger cabin. And that meant, like, some people share 4 to a room or 2 to a room and share bathrooms and things like that. And that meant every crew member had a balcony or a window view, which completely raised morale right there. Um, Beyond that, they did open the pools for us, and we had some events, a beautiful fashion show that we had dedicating our love. And we knew, this is why, we knew that other ships were not having such a good time as us. So we did a lot of events to send out some love to those people that were, isolated on the Grand, the Diamond, and the Ruby, having a difficult time as well. So we were really aware of our good fortune, right? So we did enjoy, and there were a couple times when some charter flights were canceled, and we had our whole Filipino team ready to go with their bags, on the main corridor, ready to disembark the next day, and those flights were canceled twice. And so with those people really wanting to get home to their families, that created the urgency. So there were others of us that, I loved being in the warm weather. I was really enjoying it. So we were definitely there for each other. So we could enjoy, but we were also being there for each other and trying to uplift the other ships as well.
Jennifer, how much did you guys know what was going on, either with the other ships or what was going on, for example, in the US and in Canada as things sort of really hit late in March and early April?
Well, luckily we have access to internet on board, and we could talk to our families. So whatever was happening in the news, we pretty much knew. But the thing that was hard to follow was the regulations coming out from the CDC, or the things that Princess or the other cruise lines, the rules we had to follow in order to get home, because they kept changing day to day, hour to hour even, because this has never happened before, an unprecedented worldwide, pandemic. There's no rules for that. So we would, like Daniel said, our Captain Cortese would just made a decision that any information that came in, he would tell it to everybody right away. Like, sometimes you would think that all the executives would know first, but in this case, he just decided everybody needs to know as soon as possible. And so as much information as there was at any time, we would have it. Now, I know that there are other ships out there from different cruise lines that knew nothing, and they were completely in the dark, and they were just told, we don't know anything. And so we were in another very fortunate position because of our executive team and the decisions that they made along the way, which of course inspired us to create what we did.
Absolutely, and we're going to talk about that. We'll let either of you jump in first. Where did this idea come from to record a song as there you were on the cruise ship for almost 60 days?
Well, actually, you'll notice there's an extra name that is not here present with us, Akash Doro, who was basically the main driving force behind the idea and the production of the song. So he came to me first with just a very basic idea, like we should really put something together while we're here for our other fellow colleagues that are on the other ships, and even the ones that are here with us. And then I believe, and Jen can speak to this better than I can, that Akash, whose real name is Dusan, he's from Serbia, they wanted to work together for a long time. We've all been in this industry for a few years, and this just sort of presented the perfect opportunity. So he was the spark behind the fire, if you will, and we just kind of took it from there.
And then, and of course, worked on it. And Jennifer, I'll let you jump in here. Take me through sort of where the next steps went.
As soon as they finished the beats and got some chords down, Dushan and I started really quickly working on putting the lyrics and the melody together. And within 4 days, we had a song, and I recorded it in the back locker, stage left. I got to do one take, and that was all, because the ship's very noisy. Sometimes people are working but clanging. So we did one take, and we used that. And then we started working on the video. The video took about 7 to 8 days, and we only had this, we wanted the beautiful sunset lighting. It's incredible, and that's what I think made the video as beautiful as it is, because we would have like about 45 minutes each day to catch that light. So about 7 days of shooting with Jim Diaz and Dushan, and then I guess all in all it took about 12 days to 11 to 12 days to
for the full project, yeah.
And then we get it up online. It was a very exciting day.
Absolutely. And I've got to think, even as you were doing that, it gave you guys a purpose. It gave you guys, you know, some things to do, knowing there was an end goal, knowing that it was going to be beneficial to everyone involved. And as you're out there for, as we said, almost 60 days, here was at least 12 days where you knew you certainly had something to really work on. Daniel, did you find that really brought the group together even more?
Absolutely. Yeah. For us, actually, at the time, there was a sort of sense of urgency to it, because we were still under the impression that we could go home at any day, like any time. And they really made it clear that there was not going to be a lot of heads up, most likely, that it was going to be sort of a matter of, okay, there's a flight for you tomorrow, pack your bags and go. So we really tried to hustle on that. So, but that's really the best thing about Dushan, is that once he has a project in mind, there's really no deterring him, and he literally does not sleep until it's done. I think in those whole almost 2 weeks that we were doing the project, he would be up until 4 and then get up again at 8 for some entertainment meeting or something like that. He's very, very driven, for sure.
Jennifer, it's gone online, it's gone viral. Take me through the feedback and what it's meant to see the response to this.
It was really exciting, actually, the response that we had once we got it up. Some people had been listening along the way and were really exciting. And we took it to our captain, because he was in the video, and he made sure he put it up on the big screen on the ship. And just hearing it over the loudspeaker for the first time, because he does a little music excerpt at 6 p.m. every night, it was really exciting to hear just that. And online, the response was even bigger. So I had people reaching out to me from Scotland who, you know, I haven't worked with in a couple of years, who said, I listened to your song this morning and made me cry, and then I listened to it with my mom and then we cried. So we were reaching out to people, you know, initially on ships and our shipmates, but it also reached people who were feeling alone just at home in their homes in their isolation. And so that made us feel really good, and we were getting tearful hugs on board. It was really a beautiful feedback and beautiful experience.
Nice, and that was one of the ideas, the uplifting, and I understand too, it's turned into a little bit of a fundraising element as well.
Mm-hmm. You want to go for that, Daniel?
Sure, yeah. So that was one of the big ones. Once Princess approached us after we'd already uploaded it, they really loved the project, and it had the same impact on them as we wanted it to have on our fellow colleagues that were still on board. They wanted us to sort of tell them what we envisioned for the project. And our first, which was pretty much a unilateral decision, we didn't really have to talk about it that much even, was that we wanted it to go towards, helping whoever needed help, essentially. Our first thought was obviously frontline workers. So that's what we told them, we really want whatever proceeds come out of the song, you can have it. Whatever proceeds come out of the song have to go towards charity, preferably something that will assist frontline workers, be it with, nurses or any emergency duties, essential services, anything like that. So it's all being set up through the Princess Community Foundation. And that's where proceeds are going, and they sort of dole it out as they see fit from there.
No, it's very nice that you get the combination of the uplifting for the group, uplifting for the people that have heard it, and of course, and seen the video, and then the fundraising aspects of it as well. Neither of you are on the cruise ship anymore. Obviously, back in Canada, back in Ontario. Jennifer, I'll start with you. Take me through that time when you found out that, okay, it's time to go home.
We started the repatriation process around the 25th of April, and that meant Princess, because they were unable to fly themselves, their crew members home. We were separated into different ships, a few ships going to Asia, a few ships going to Europe, and the North Americans were put on the Emerald Princess. So I think it was the 25th-ish, we went on the Emerald Princess, and we didn't know how long we were going to be there, but the there was one chance of a charter going out of Barbados, but we were unable to get permission to dock in Barbados, Bahamas, I'm sorry, to fly home on that flight. And then a week later, we were granted the ability to get off in Miami and fly out via private charter. And that date just happened to be the actual end date of my 6-month contract. So that was May 9th. We arrived in Toronto to snow in my face.
I remember when we got snow in early May, and we all thought, yes, and you being in the in the warmer weather, you thought, great, lovely, snow, thank you.
That was the worst. It's like, just take me back. Can I get back on the plane, please? No, I'm just kidding.
So then, Daniel, you get back. I assume you came back similar time, and then it's obviously you come back the 14 days, and I'm sure once that was done, it was probably nice to be okay. That chapter, we experienced it, we worked well together, but I'm sure it's nice to be on a firm ground as well.
Absolutely, yeah, and we were lucky enough that we got to spend our quarantine together, Jennifer and I. That is, so there's still a little bit of creative juices flowing there, and since we were both in Toronto for it, it was just nice to not have the physical isolation, but to not have so much social isolation, And luckily, we get on super well. I'm not sure if you can tell or not, but she's a marvelous person. So that was really lovely. And then my parents came to pick me up. And on the day that our quarantine ended, the sun came out in full force. It was like t-shirt weather. So it was really a nice sort of welcoming omen, if you will, back into society in some way.
So now that you're all set, Jennifer, where do we go from here? Is it waiting to see? Is it back to the cruise ships eventually? Where do we, go from here for you?
Well, first of all, not all of our team members have made it home.
Oh,
we are
wow.
still waiting to hear. I know some of our Indian and Mexican team members made it home. It's really, emotional watching that on when it comes up on the Facebook feed. But there are other cruise lines that are still trying to they've been out there for 4 months with no passengers. So we only had 2 months of that, but I can imagine how that would wear on the psyche. So we are still sending out our love and support to those people who are still waiting to get home and saying, you will get home eventually. And then after that, we don't know exactly when those dates of going back into operations is keeps being pushed back. So right now, possibly October, a few of the ships will start to come back out again, but we're not even sure when full operation will resume.
Daniel, what are the plans for you over the course of the summer and moving forward?
Well, for now, I'm taking a few online courses, things here and there, just keeping myself occupied and try to be productive with this sort of uncertain time off, if you will. But yeah, I'd love to go back. It's I've really gotten accustomed to the life at sea, and it's a lifestyle that suits me for the time being. And I don't see a future where it doesn't. Anything in the near future, anyway. So I'm keen to get back, and I hope that even for the sake of these cruise lines, that they are able to do so safely, of course, but as soon as possible.
Jennifer, Daniel, we appreciate the time. We've put up the link to where people can find the song as well to check out the videos. We saw it, some of it there just before we started the interview as well. So we appreciate your time, both of you, the stories, and it's certainly a great job with the video, and we know it certainly made a difference for a lot of people. All the best to you, and take care and stay safe.
Thank you, Terry.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Jennifer, Daniel, thank you very much for joining us. You're watching Sarnia Lambton Daily on your TV. Recapping our top story tonight here on Sarnia Lambton Daily, the local medical officer of health wants the province to take another look at the regional reopening plans. While Sarnia Lambton is not being included in Friday's Stage 2 reopening, nearby communities are, such as Chatham-Kent and London Middlesex. Officials want to know how keeping one area closed while areas right next door are being able to open, and how does that benefit public health. That's going to do it for our show tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you back here tomorrow.